There comes a moment in every life where a quiet decision must be made, not announced, not performed, but embodied. It's the moment you stop moving from fear and begin to move from truth, the moment you stop asking for permission to exist fully. That moment is not marked by thunder or applause, but by a shift deep in the soul, a shift that says, I will walk as if I cannot lose, not because I am guaranteed victory, but because I am no longer willing to abandon myself in the name of fear. This is not about arrogance, it's not about pretending, it's about reclaiming the sacred responsibility of being fully alive, because the greatest tragedy is not failure, it's self-betrayal, and the one who acts like they can't lose is not the loudest in the room. They are the most aligned. Aligned with purpose, aligned with truth, aligned with the deeper knowing that every step forward, no matter how uncertain, is a step toward becoming whole. To act like you can't lose is not a denial of danger, it is an affirmation of inner alignment. The human psyche, at its deepest level, does not hunger for safety or comfort. It hungers for wholeness. Wholeness is not perfection. Wholeness is integration, the reunion of all that has been denied, repressed, or forgotten within you. Safety appeals to the part of you that wants to remain unchanged, untouched, undisturbed. But the impulse toward transformation, the yearning to become fully yourself, cannot thrive in safety. It demands risk. It demands exposure. It demands that you walk to the edge of your known self and step into the unknown. Acting like you can't lose doesn't mean recklessness. It means you are no longer negotiating with your potential. You are no longer bartering with fear for temporary peace. It means you are willing to follow the thread of your true path, even if it leads through darkness, because you know the danger of not becoming yourself is far greater than the danger of failing. Wholeness asks everything of you. It asks you to stop hiding behind excuses, to stop shrinking for approval, to stop dimming your inner light for the comfort of others or the illusion of control. You were not made to live in pieces. You were not born to be a fragment of your true self, trapped by hesitation, imprisoned by what-ifs. Deep down, you know this. Deep down, there's a pull, a sacred unrest, calling you towards something more complete, more honest, more alive. When you act like you can't lose, you are not pretending to be invincible. You are simply stepping into the reality that you are becoming indivisible. You are aligning with the inner force that knows. The path to wholeness may wound you, but it will never betray you. The part of you that wants to win must bow to the part of you that wants to evolve. And when you finally understand this, your posture changes. You stop clinging to outcomes. You stop fearing mistakes. You begin to live from your depth. You move from a different place, not from desperation to succeed, but from devotion to become. And that devotion, that inner fidelity to your truth, is where your real power lies. The true battle has never been with the outside world. It is not the competition, the market, the critics, or the circumstances that stand in your way. The real struggle lies within, in that silent voice that questions your worth before anyone else does, that hesitates before the step is even taken, that whispers of defeat before effort is even made. This inner doubter is subtle. It doesn't always scream. It often speaks in hesitation, in perfectionism, in the need for constant validation, in the compulsion to over-prepare but never truly act. This force is not concerned with safety. It disguises itself as logic, as caution, as rationality. But in truth, it is a gatekeeper of your past, formed in moments of disappointment, rejection, abandonment, or ridicule. It's built from old fears, internalized failures, ancestral patterns, and yet, most never stop to confront it directly. They think they are afraid of failing in the world, when really, they are afraid of the pain that might surface within if they try and come up short again. But here is the deeper truth. The doubter does not hold power on its own. It draws its strength from your agreement with it, your unconscious loyalty to the voice of smallness, your unwillingness to sever from the old, familiar comfort of staying hidden. To act like you can't lose is not to deny this voice. It is to look it squarely in the eye and walk forward anyway. It is to acknowledge that it exists, but refuse to let it steer. You will hear it, but you will not obey it. You will feel its weight, but you will not let it anchor you. Because once you begin to act as if you cannot lose, you do something far more radical than cultivating confidence. You begin to reclaim your inner authority. You stop outsourcing your worth to the world, and you stop believing that your value is contingent on constant proof. Instead, you begin to remember that you were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole, and that includes fear, doubt, and trembling steps. You cannot defeat the inner doubter by force. You overcome it by outgrowing it, by proving, through consistent action, that its narrative no longer applies to who you are becoming. Every time you speak, when you'd rather stay silent. Every time you step up when you feel unprepared. Every time you risk being seen, you dismantle that voice brick by brick. And in its place, something ancient and powerful begins to rise, a deeper knowing, a presence that isn't dependent on outcome, a resolve that doesn't waver with rejection. The battle is not about becoming fearless. It's about becoming faithful to your deeper self, to your inner vision, to the life that calls you even when everything inside tries to pull you back into silence. Safety is a mirage. It promises peace, but delivers stagnation. The real peace comes from knowing that you faced the voice that tried to keep you small and chose to walk anyway. That is what it means to act like you can't lose. Not that you won't fall, but that you won't betray yourself again just to stay comfortable. And that shift, that decision, is where transformation begins. The world is not simply a stage upon which you act. It is a mirror that reflects the posture of your inner life. What you carry within yourself quietly shapes the tone, texture, and rhythm of your experiences. When you walk through life burdened by hesitation, self-doubt, and inner fragmentation, life reflects it back in the form of delay, confusion, or resistance. But when your inner world is unified, when your being stands upright in clarity and conviction, reality begins to arrange itself in unexpected ways, not because the universe bends to your will, but because you are finally aligned with your own. You are constantly in silent dialogue with life, not just through your words or actions, but through your presence. Your presence is shaped by your belief system, your identity, your emotional tone, and your willingness to be seen as you truly are. This inner posture, how you regard yourself, how much space you allow yourself to take, how deeply you trust your own path, communicates louder than any speech or display of confidence ever could. People respond to this unseen language. Opportunities respond. Even time seems to respond. This is not mystical thinking. It is psychological truth. The inner world does not remain contained. It radiates outward and structures perception. Acting like you can't lose is not about delusion or blind optimism. It's about adjusting your inner posture to reflect trust in your becoming. When you carry yourself as someone who has already committed to growth, who has already said yes to the process regardless of the outcome, then everything changes. You speak with more weight, you move with more intention, and those around you begin to respond to you with the same level of respect and attentiveness that you give yourself. This is not arrogance, it's coherence. And coherence is rare, so it draws attention. When you are fragmented inside, you move as if the ground might give way at any moment. Your eyes search the faces of others for cues of permission. You hold your breath waiting for someone to tell you you're ready, or worthy, or enough. And the world senses that hesitation. It doesn't judge it, but it doesn't trust it either, because life mirrors belief, and when your belief is scattered, your results are scattered. But when you embody the truth of your own power, even imperfectly, you begin to create momentum. There is a difference between acting confident and being internally congruent. One is a mask, the other is a transmission. When you act like you can't lose, not out of denial, but out of deep inner knowing, you begin to transmit something potent. Not superiority, but certainty, not ego, but essence. You aren't declaring war on the world. You're simply refusing to declare war on yourself anymore. And the moment you make that shift, you stop chasing things that were never meant for you. You stop begging for doors to open, and instead, you walk in the direction of your calling, knowing that what is aligned will meet you halfway. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs presence, and presence comes from inner alignment. So if you want your reality to shift, don't start with tactics, start with truth, stand in it, breathe into it, move from it, because the world is watching. not your performance but your posture, and it reflects back not what you say you believe, but what you truly hold to be real. You don't gain power by collecting achievements. You don't become powerful by appearing strong, loud, or dominant. True power is not something added to you. It is something revealed from within, and what reveals it is identity. Not the identity assigned by culture, family, or trauma, but the one buried beneath it all, waiting to be remembered. When you act like you can't lose, you're not performing for the world. You're embodying a self that no longer negotiates its presence. You are not trying to convince anyone. You are simply being who you were meant to be before the world told you who you should be. Most people move through life wearing masks. They adapt, they imitate, they perform. But what they gain in acceptance, they lose in essence. They forget that every step away from their authentic self is a step away from their center of gravity, and without center, there is no real strength. There is only reaction, exhaustion, and the endless chase for external proof. But when you begin to live from your true identity, not your resume, not your image, but your essence, you begin to move differently. You speak less, but with more weight. You need less, but command more. You act with clarity because you are no longer split between who you are and who you're pretending to be. There is something magnetic about a person who knows who they are. Not in a shallow, self-assured way, but in a grounded, unshakable way. They don't rush. They don't compete. They don't seek approval because they are already rooted in something far deeper than validation, self-recognition. And this recognition is not inflated. It is sober. It is the quiet, unwavering awareness that your existence has weight, that your voice has meaning, that your path is not random. When you operate from this place, your actions carry energy. Your presence begins to speak before your words ever do. Acting like you can't lose is not about bluffing. It's about embodying the version of you that has already integrated failure, rejection, and fear into wisdom. That version doesn't posture. It doesn't rush to prove itself. It doesn't need to win every time because it knows who it is even when it loses. And paradoxically, it wins more. Not because it tries harder, but because it radiates coherence. The inner and outer are aligned. There is no tension between what you believe and how you behave. That alignment is rare, and because it's rare, it's powerful. Identity is the foundation. Without it, even your strengths will feel like burdens. Without it, success feels hollow and failure feels fatal. But when your identity is rooted, not in ego, but in truth, you carry yourself with the calm certainty of someone who has nothing to prove and everything to express. That's when the real power flows, not from force but from congruence, not from control but from clarity. That's the strength of someone who moves through life not asking, "What should I do?" but instead declaring, "This is who I am." And when you live like that, even the obstacles begin to part, not because the world is easier, but because you are no longer at war with yourself. Destiny is not something handed to you. It is not gifted to the cautious, nor revealed to the one who waits for perfect conditions. It responds to those who dare, those who move not because the path is clear, but because the inner call refuses to be silenced. To act like you can't lose is not to guarantee success, but to declare that your courage will no longer depend on outcome. It is a silent vow that you will show up not just when it's safe or convenient, but when your soul says, "This is the way." Life doesn't bend for the hesitant, it waits, it tests, it asks, are you ready to move without a guarantee? Are you willing to walk through the fire without a promise of applause? Can you keep going when it looks like nothing is changing? These are not punishments, they are initiations, because courage is not proved in ease, it is forged in uncertainty. And the one who lives as though they cannot lose is the one who no longer asks the world to validate their direction. They walk with a different authority, the authority that comes from having faced their own fear and chosen truth anyway. Destiny respects this posture because it knows it can only meet you at the depth to which you are willing to meet yourself. If you stay at the surface, driven by appearances, approval, or comfort, life mirrors that back. But if you dig deep, move with intention, and act with the quiet audacity of one who knows their becoming is non-negotiable, then reality begins to shift, not instantly, not easily, but inevitably. This courage is not loud. It doesn't need to be seen. It often looks like rising again after no one noticed you fell. It looks like creating when no one asked, speaking when your voice shakes, showing up when you feel invisible. To act like you can't lose is not about pretending to be unshakable. It's about refusing to be stopped by fear. It's not that you're blind to risk, it's that you are faithful to your path, even in the face of it. And this faith, this inner fidelity to something larger than approval or control, is what destiny responds to, because destiny is not a reward, it is a reflection, a mirror of the soul that chooses courage over comfort again and again. And the paradox is this: when you finally stop trying to control the outcome, when you step forward not to win, but to become, that is precisely when life opens, not to flatter you, but to meet you. So the question is not whether you will face resistance. You will. The real question is, will you move anyway? Will you act as though your path is sacred, even when it's unclear? Will you embody the posture of someone who knows, deep down, that even if you fall, the very act of walking was the victory? Because that is the kind of courage destiny cannot ignore, and that is the kind of person who is never truly defeated. So act like you can't lose, not because life guarantees success, but because your soul demands movement. Walk with fire in your eyes and silence in your heart. You are not here to survive. You are here to become.